Okay.
We are live.
We're live.
Make a lot of amendments.
Senate Appropriations, February 18th.
Never mind, you might be too busy.
We're live, so we're going through FY27 budget address report. We're going to take a little break to talk to Eric McCullough from the NCSL, which I don't look at it, I say NSCL for some reason.
A lot of folks do.
Yeah, I don't know why I want to put the S first. But I'll let you introduce yourself for the record and tell us about NCSL.
Sure. So I'm Erica McCullough. I'm with the Fiscal Affairs Program at the National Conference of State Legislatures, and I also have the privilege of being NCSL's liaison to the Vermont Legislature. I think you all are familiar with NCSL, but just for the record, we are a bipartisan group that's dedicated to strengthening the legislative institution through providing research, hosting meetings where you all can come and exchange ideas, trainings, some advocacy work in DC, different things like that.
How would you differentiate it, or is there a difference between that other association, the governing?
CSG.
Yeah, so one of the big differences, CSG does more regional work, and then also the biggest difference is that legislative staff are also members of NCSL. We're the only organization that includes legislative staff as members.
So that's been helpful, I know, for our joint fiscal office to participate, talk to other budget staff members around the country.
Yeah, I'm also the liaison to the National Association of Legislative Fiscal Offices, which is our professional staff association for legislative fiscal staff.
I've been talking my NCSL. It was not just because you were here today.
I like it. Good promotion.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you asked me to go through some of our most recent budget work. Is that helpful?
So I'll let people know that I did go to a conference that they had for the budget subcommittees and subcommittee or just committee?
The larger group is called the Budget Working Group, and then there are 3 subcommittees that work on, and the overall goal is long-term sustainable budgeting, tackling issues around that.
So there was bipartisan chairs of Appropriations Committee around the country, some staff, maybe a few vice chairs. I think I was vice chair at the time. And so I found it very helpful if you're ever interested in learning about budgets and how other states also operate. So yeah, what other resources are out there?
Okay. I did send Elle just a quick list of some of our upcoming and most recent things that I think might be helpful for the committee. So I thought I'd just go through those quickly, mention a few other areas that we cover, and take any questions that you might have.
Okay. Yeah, your 2-page handout is up on our website under Erica's name.
Okay. So one of the first resources that I think will be helpful over the next couple of years is we created a state actions to close budget shortfalls database that's available on our website. We know that revenue is tightening and budgets are tightening for states. So as states look to cut budgets, raise revenue, use rainy day funds, we're going to be tracking those sort of proposals and enacted measures in the states. It's something that we did during the Great Recession and we did during COVID, and we think it's a useful tool. You can search, via state, via type of, revenue increase, cut. You can search by program area. So I think it'll be hopefully a beneficial tool for you all as you kind of continue your work. The second coming, hopefully this week, is a state budget update report where we surveyed legislative fiscal offices about how revenues were performing relative to the latest forecasts. And so that should be coming soon, hopefully this week. The main takeaway from that is that most states are on target to meet their revenue estimates for now, but I think there are definitely concerns of mounting spending pressures that'll still make maybe some tough choices for you all. We also surveyed them around fiscal notes and what's included in fiscal notes and the process for those, and that will be coming hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks here. And then you mentioned the Budget Working Group, which is a group of legislators and legislative staff that focus on long-term sustainable budgeting. And they have subcommittees, and based on discussions that those subcommittees have, we produce reports. And so far there are 3 reports available. one on data management, one on exploring maintenance for state-owned facilities and deferred maintenance, and one on one-time versus recurring revenues and expenditures in the budgeting process.
That's just like describing those two, one time in recurring, or one time in base, we call them here.
Yeah, it's not every state distinguishes between them in their budgeting process, so it's sort of about the importance of that and different definitions and kind of the different ways that states can approach that.
Can I ask you a question about the shortfall database?
Absolutely.
Are you finding all states, most states are facing shortfalls?
So, no, I think that revenues this fiscal year are fairly steady, but I think that a lot of states are looking to tighten budgets kind of as a precautionary measure and looking ahead, especially with some of the federal changes and things that are coming down. I think the federal changes, we'll see how that ends up impacting. There are a handful of states that I think are facing some fairly significant shortfalls. But by and large, right now, things seem pretty stable, but I think, we'll see how that progresses.
Sounds similar to our situation.
The other thing that we are watching really closely are, those federal changes that are coming down to you all. There is a webinar on February 27th, if you're interested, on how states are approaching the state health, what are they called? Why am I blanking on the name? The health funds that the administration put into going through CMS, the State Rural Health Transformation Funds.
RHT.
Yes. Sorry, I was blanking on the name. So we'll be talking a little about that, some of the more immediate changes to Medicaid and how states are responding to that. SNAP, particularly the shifting administrative costs. And then a little bit about some FEMA changes and how states are kind of approaching those issues. So that's on February 27th, and it'll be recorded too. Okay. Then our Children and Families program and some of our DC folks have put together some helpful resources around some of the changes to SNAP that I've linked to. Our Medicaid team has put together a couple of different reports that I think are useful, and they also did a webinar series that's available recorded that I think might be helpful. Because those I think are the two biggest pieces of the federal changes that we're hearing from states on right now, but interested to hear if there are other areas that you all are kind of interested in or working on. And then the last thing I linked to is just sort of a couple of different ways to get involved. If any of you are having trouble with your NCSL login or anything, let me know. But if you go to our website, you can log in, and if you go to the news tab, which I linked to, you can sign up for various newsletters in different policy areas. We in Fiscal put out a budget and tax newsletter that goes out every Friday. And then we have NCSL Today, which is more broader policy area. We also have NCSL's Budgets and Revenue Committee, which Senator Perchik, I believe you are a part of. And that's a large committee that meets and decides any directives that NCSL advocates for on the Hill. So then additionally, we also cover, budget process issues, which are a little more perennial. So we have information on, late state budgets, the fiscal note report that I mentioned, just kind of the appropriations structure in states, things like that. We also do tax policy. So there's been a lot recently done on the tax conformity piece that we've seen. And then property taxes have been another big issue that we've been watching closely. Economic development, we also have a lot of resources on economic development tax credits and things like that. So just a few other issue areas that I didn't want to overwhelm this document with things, but if there are other topic areas you're interested in.
It's just finding the time to make use of it.
Yeah.
Same with some of the conference calls during the day or in here. But thanks, I looked at some of them, and I think that what other states are doing about budget cuts or new revenue, it will be interesting to look at as we face the same questions here. All right, any other questions for Erica about NCSL or what they're resources that they have. There's a lot there. And there's, I mean, you're here because you're the budget, but there's a transportation work with NCSL, and there's every sector of state government, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, I think several NCSL staff have been testifying for various committees and things, so that's another service that we're always happy to provide.
Right, I know in transportation, I've talked to the transportation guy or team before several times.
Who is that?
Can't remember his name.
Doug Schinkel, probably?
Schinkel,
Yeah, he's been around a long time. He
From-
has a lot of, from NCSL.
Oh,
He's our lead on our transportation.
do you have a chair of that committee?
We
Oh,
do have, like, similar to the Budgets and Revenue Committee, we do have a transportation committee. I don't know who the chair is.
Oh.
But if that's something that you're interested in getting involved in, I'd be happy to send you information.
Yeah.
Yeah, Schenkel has been very helpful when we were dealing with some issues a couple of years ago. And very responsive. If I just called him, he'd call me back that day, tell me, oh, this is what other states are doing.
Yeah.
We had a really good meeting this fall with the NGA and NCSL on recovery programs.
Okay.
Substance use was very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay,
I worked myself. It was great.
yeah. Conferences are helpful.
Yes.
Well, thank you all very much for being involved and for your support of NCSL. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
If there's anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I know you have other work to get back to, but I do have glasses, wipes, and pens if anybody wants.
glasses wipes.
Okay.
I don't have any glasses.
Aren't you special?
I do have some reading glasses. Maybe.
Anyone else?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll take one
Yeah.
for reading. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Preference on blue or red?
Covers everybody.
What color do you want?
I'll take the blue.
Our preferences?
I don't care.
Purple.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank
These
you.
look good.
Would either of you like them?
And
Color
first
preference?
time all day.
Summit.
Oh, yes.
2026.
I should have mentioned
They're
that
pretty
Chicago Summit coming up. A little bit different timing this year.
When is it? Year?
Oh, my phone's a mess. This thing's a
It's
mess.
usually in August.
You
Is
don't
it
notice it. till-
Chicago in August?
Chicago in the end of July.
When is it not?
What's that?
When is it?
It's like usually the first week in August, so it's just a little bit earlier.
Where the employees are not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay, well, thanks, Erica.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erica.
Are you gonna go?
Probably not. But I don't know. I'm doing some other trips
Let
in June.
let me know if you're going.
Yeah.
I'll get baseball tickets.
For NCSL?
My next door neighbor, owns the concession at Wrigley Field.
Nice.
He's always.
Free beer?
He owns he owns the concession at Wrigley Field, and it's like, he keeps saying, let's go to a ball game, and it's like,
Oh, that's cleaned up pretty good.
That's Tim.
put
Okay.
Brian to work.
So now we're gonna hear the budget proposal from the Vermont Communication Broadband Board. We have JB and Christina here, and Christine is online, I think. So is Christine running the
No,
slideshow there?
no,
Christina will be taking the lead. Heron will be running, I assume Heron will be running the slides. But I'm here to answer any additional questions you might have.
Okay, I didn't see you there for a second. Well, welcome, and I'll let you introduce yourselves and give us your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today. I'm Christina Sweet. I'm the Director of Regulatory Compliance at the Vermont Community Broadband Board.
I'm JB Ledoux. I'm the Financial Manager at BCDB.
And I'm Christine Hultquist, the Executive Director for the Vermont Community Broadband Board.
Thank you. All right, we'll get started. Heron, next slide, please. Okay, this slide just gives you a summary of our progress toward getting every Vermonter connected to broadband access since we began this journey in 2021 with the establishment of the Vermont Community Broadband Board through Act 71.
Christina, can I just, JB, would you mind hitting that?
Yeah.
Or
Sorry.
just so we see that
sorry.
legend?
Great.
There, I think, nervous. Okay, sorry.
At that point, 21% of locations or addresses across the state were defined as unserved or underserved, so they did not have reliable broadband access. And today, in 2026, less than 1% of those locations either have access or there is a plan to provide them with access. So there's really a funding source for that location to receive access within the next few years. Yes.
It sounded like maybe you unintentionally reversed it. So you said there's 1% left without broadband or who are underserved. Is that right?
So there's 1% left without a funding commitment. So it's sort of some of those, some of the locations that we set out to reach in 2021 have been reached. Some of those locations have a funding commitment. There's 1% left that don't have a clear funding commitment.
Is that the red on the map?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are and actually I'll let Christine jump in if she has clarified anything on
I'll
the
provide
map.
some clarity. In 2021, about 30% of the locations in Vermont had access to fiber optic internet. Today, as of July 1st of last year, 72%. So we've gone from 30 to 72% fiber. And today we have less than 5% that are underserved. So if you look at 21%, we're down to less than 5% underserved. And the majority of those have funding commitments and will get served within the next few years.
Does that answer your question, sir?
It does. I was just, those two don't use the same metrics. So
I agree, yeah.
The color, the legends are different.
yeah. But that was clear. Thank you, Christine.
Hey, next slide, please. Great, so over the past year, we have continued our progress towards providing Vermonters with universal, reliable broadband access, and we also responded to some major federal funding shifts. Prior to last year, we had completed a digital equity planning grant that was provided by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA. That was about a $518,000 grant that allowed us to develop a Vermont digital equity plan. The next tranche of funding that we expected was a digital equity capacity grant to actually implement that digital equity grant. We received that $5.3 million award just around, I think it was December or January of, I think it was January 2025. And that grant was later canceled in May. So we did lose that funding. We were able to request the small amount of funding we had spent, a little over $200,000. That pending drawdown is, well, as I said, it's still pending, actually. JB diligently follows up on that every few weeks to see where that is, but that grant was canceled, as were all of the digital equity grants nationwide. We also responded to some new policy requirements for our larger grant program, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, or BEAD program. And that is our program for broadband deployment. And as we were wrapping up our subrecipient selection process for grants under that program, we received a restructuring policy notice from the NTIA that required us to basically run that subrecipient selection process again with what the NTIA specified was neutrality on technology. So we, rather than saying that we in Vermont had a preference for fiber optic broadband, we needed to run a process that said that any broadband provider that meets the definition of broadband in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act would be eligible. So we reran that process, and now we are finally able to, or we will be very soon able to execute those subgrantee agreements.
What is the definition? How many? What's it?
The definition is 120 or 100 over 20. Is that right, Christine? 100 downloads and 20 megs upload or gigs
Yes,
uploaded.
that is correct.
Yeah. And lastly, we launched what we're calling the Affordable Long Drop Program with some of our remaining ARPA Capital Projects Fund dollars. And that is helping to improve access to broadband for lower income Vermonters who would otherwise not be able to afford what providers would call a non-standard or long drop. So someone with, for example, a really long driveway where there would be an extra charge to cover that distance. Next slide. So these are some further details. I won't go through all of these. It has the definition of broadband meeting that federal standard of 100 over 20 megabytes per second. The vast majority of addresses that we are awarding under the BEAD program will be served by fiber optic, with our remaining locations served by hybrid fiber cable, and is smaller percentage of locations served by low urban or LEO satellites.
Can I ask, what company is it that operates those?
The LEO satellites are operated by Starlink or SpaceX, and we did initially have applications from Amazon Kuiper. I believe they've since changed their name from Amazon Kuiper to something else. They are not yet in operation, and they ended up withdrawing their applications, and they have withdrawn from several other states as well.
So Starlink was the sole option.
Yes, for those LEO locations.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions before we move on from this slide?
And then when you talk about the plans are in place for 99% Vermont addresses, how far out is that? Like a 10-year plans or 5-year plans, 3-year plans?
Yeah, our hope is that these locations will all be completed by the end of our BEAD award, and that is currently ends in 2032. So I would say the next, what would you say, Christine?
4 years, right? We have a 4-year construction build out. So by 2030, the data is 83% of the addresses will have fiber with another 16% hybrid fiber cable. And then actually 0.3% will be satellite.
And then would we go to your site or would we go to our local community access or to find out the maps and the dates? But like if we have a constituent that says, I keep being told it's going to come and it never comes. Is there a map? There are maps I've seen in the past. But I can't remember where they are.
We have an ArcGIS hub that you can access from our website. And then you can also contact the local communications union district, and they will have details on what funding source and timeline that particular location is on.
They have maps.
Yes.
The CUTs do. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, next slide. We already discussed a little bit about our digital equity, which we're also calling our digital empowerment work. But we are continuing that work through the Affordable Long Drop Program and through a program that we're currently piloting on a very small scale, which is a device donation and refurbishment program to reach formerly incarcerated Vermonters with devices that they can use to access the internet. Next slide. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Curious where the donations come from.
Yeah, at this.
Is it mostly just individuals or is it like schools that are cycling out or?
Yeah, right now it's just, we're piloting this with, we're starting the pilot with like 20 devices that are donated from the United Way.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're looking at all kinds of angles for future donations.
Just
once this goes
thinking
well.
about when there's a new, purchase and old generations are, headed out the door for various institutions, that might be an
Yeah,
interesting
it's a great
option.
way.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I hope that we're able to maybe work with the agency of natural resources as well on that, the recycling aspect of that program. Okay, so to just touch a little bit more on the BEAD program, overall nationwide, this is a $42.5 billion program. And we finally received our approval of what we're calling the final proposal, what they call the final proposal, to deploy 93 million in infrastructure funds to build out Vermont's broadband. So we, this was in response to the program restructuring that happened in June of 2025, and that final proposal approval was really critical for us because it really does unlock this 93 million that we can now begin awarding to subrecipients across the state.
Do I remember Ms. Hallquist at one time saying that was going to be more like 200 million? So then we thought it was going to be more, right?
So our overall grant, and it is in our current notice of award, is 228.9 million. That is our overall allocation under the BEAD, that $42.5 billion BEAD program. We thought we were going to be spending a lot more of that money on deployment. We already have spent up to, well, we're in the middle of spending $5 million within that grant of what the NTA calls planning funds, which we use to build up our team. And now, because we're only spending 93 million on deployment, we thought we would spend a lot more. There will be additional funds that we will use for what are called non-deployment funds. However, we haven't unlocked those yet, and we are going to receive more information from NTA on how we can provide a proposal to use those funds. We have a lot of really great ideas that Christine has been working on, and the NTA recently held listening sessions for all of the states and also the public to gather input on how those funds may be spent. But it was unusual in that we thought we were going to be spending very little, if any, on non-deployment, and now we will likely have a significant amount of money that we'll be able to use on non-deployment. Is there anything else you want to say on non-deployment?
What would be an example of non-deployment for if you're going to spend another $100 million?
Yeah, I'll be glad to take that. What we're proposing in non-deployment really falls into three areas. One is workforce development. We've got a very successful pre-apprenticeship program where we've been able to provide technicians to build this network. So that has a 70% placement program. We'd expand that program to include training for Vermonters to move into the digital skills fields such as smart farms, AI, and other things. So workforce development is one. Building resilience and redundancy and security into our infrastructure is another, building rings around the state so that when the storms occur, we don't lose the networks. And then the third part is economic development activities, such as smart farms. So for example, smart farms, using topical application of nutrients, you can reduce the application by greater than 30%, which of course helps reduce our phosphorus runoff and other economic development applications.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide.
Senator Lyon.
Yeah, so one of the questions I was going to ask a little bit later, but maybe it's now, given the money that you're talking about, once all of this is in place, then who's responsible for the upkeep?
The providers are responsible for the upkeep. So each,
Okay,
yeah.
So not the people at the end of the line until it gets
No,
into
no, the providers, it's built into their business plans, the operations and maintenance costs.
Okay, thank you.
Great, and so in the interest of time, I think we'll move on from the affordable long drop programs. We covered that a little bit. And this just is a summary of our annual report. We have details of all of our pre-constructions and construction grants that have been awarded, contracts were executed or paid out during 2025, updates on our communications union districts, and our operating and financial statements. Next slide. This is a summary of our pre-construction grants. We have awarded 38.6 million. Many of these grants, all of them will be wrapped up this year, but many of these grants are wrapping up now. And these were grants that were provided to communications union districts to help them operationally to establish themselves and to get ready for undertaking broadband construction projects, and these were funded with ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery funds. Next slide. And these are a summary of our construction grants, which were really for broadband construction across the state. We have awarded 196.2 million in broadband construction grants, both from ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery funds, and ARPA capital project funds. And these will also be wrapping up this year. Next slide. These are a summary of our current contracts or contracts that we had in 2025. Next slide. And it's an update on where our current CUDs are. I'm not sure there's a label on the big pink CUD and the right hand or the
next slide has
yes. That has more details.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Great. So we have 9 current CUDs. That's reflecting the merger of Central Vermont and NEK broadband. And as of now, construction is essentially complete in our Southern Vermont CUD, Otter Creek, Lamoille, Chittenden County, and East Beach Fiber. And we have ongoing construction in Northwest, DV Fiber, Maple Broadband, and NEKCB.
In the towns that are not colored, they're being served by providers directly.
Yes, the non-CUD towns, we do have one grant to Waitsfield and Champlain Valley Telecom, to VCBT for non-CUD towns, but those are in some cases being served by providers directly, and in some cases will be served under the BEAD program.
Okay.
Next slide. All right, and I'm going to pass it off to my colleague JB Ledoux to talk about our budget.
Yeah, so fiscal year 27 budget is asking for special funds and the usage of federal funds. There's no general funds being asked for. The budget pretty much is in line with the fiscal year 26 budget with a couple of changes.
Can you remind us where the special funds are coming from?
Yeah, that comes from the USF, the Universal Service Fund. We are allotted a percentage of that. And so in this very first slide, you will notice that it seems like we basically moved a lot of funds from the special fund to the federal fund. That was last spring, we looked at how we were expensing personnel and other things, and we kind of righted it up to make sure that we were charging the federal grants everything that we could be. So there's a lot of just taking from one pot and putting into another on this slide, and all of the increases are due to just personnel increases that you would expect year to year, benefits, things of that sort. Could you go to the next slide, Aaron, for me?
JB, what
Yes.
was your overall change? Do you have a percentage? Like, could you stay within the governor's target?
Yes. Well, I think it was a little. Yeah, I think it stayed within the. That'll be on the next slide after this. Basically, the only thing that increased any major amount was the indirect costs, which we hadn't been expensing to the federal grants, and other contracts and third-party services, which we increased by 500,000 in federally and 60,000 in special to account for the contractors that were going to be helping us with the bead now that we have the bead funds. So the next slide has the totals. We were about $719,000 over the governor recommended, or the target, sorry. And not much under on the special funds because of the reclass that we did last fiscal year. Is there any questions on that portion?
I'm just not clear on the difference between governor recommended and governor recommended target.
Well, the governor recommended target is the same budget as the previous fiscal year in this case. So they want to just, they give you that target even though no one ever really meets that target, I don't believe, at least the way we have our setup, because there's just increases in, like I said, in personnel costs such as benefits and things like that. So I'm actually not 100% sure why the target isn't the number, let's say 3% higher, and then we try to use that. I could not answer that question, actually. Yeah. So it's basically, the current budget that we are using in FY26 is the 45.5 million. We tried to hit that target, we ended up 719,000 over. Which we were also helped because we had some savings for a position. We lost a position or decided not to refill a position. So we had some savings there and everything is in line with what was expected. There's no major surprises or asks. The following, I think, maybe 15 slides are the minutia of the budgetary reports, which we can look at if you are so inclined.
Is there anything that we should, when we go through it more carefully, that we would?
I mean, I don't think there would be any major questions. All of the ups and downs as it lays are on those original 3 slides I showed. So everything else either stays the same as the previous year, or is lumped in one of the categories that you can see the up or down. And the ups and downs are a little bit different this year than they should be in the years going forward because of the amount of expenses that we moved between the special funds into the federal funds. Yeah, the 43 million that we're asking for grants just is kind of reflects the amount that we would like spending authority over to see what happens with the bead, especially with the bead funding.
In the vacancy turnover savings, that's the same for both federal and because you were going to match it?
Nope, that is because that employee's position was split 50% between USF and federal funds.
Is that you're just not filling it, or did you like not give up that position?
I'll let Christine maybe take that.
Yeah, we gave up that position. You know, it turned out that that position was displaced by other folks and staff through some efficiencies. But I will remind you that all of these, you know, we have been, Act 71 allows us to use 1.5 million for administrative funding out of the general fund, but we've been very, very careful to avoid that. So everything you're seeing here does not come out of the general fund.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Okay, I don't have any questions. Anybody else have any questions?
Amazing work.
Looking forward to getting broadband on my road.
Yes, absolutely. Didn't run your show?
No.
Sorry.
Which town?
Marshfield. Okay.
What's the ETA on Marshall?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have talked to when it was CV fiber.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the next couple of years.
We are done in a while.
I know, Lamoille's done. Why is that?
We're number one.
Because it's center west.
We're number one.
Okay, well, thanks for your work. Thanks,
Thank
Christine.
you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna move to Vermont fairs.
I have no internet and Bruce Cat is here, so.
Neither, yeah. Yeah, I think we're in the same situation.
When they talk about the last mile and we're like the last half mile.
Yeah, we have like cable on one side, and they did run some fiber on the other side, but we're in
Thank
like
you.
this.
I'll pass it down.
And there's just not enough houses for them to like.
Oh, wow.
worry.
No, ours goes, it goes out of Marshfield to 215, and it misses all the houses on Route 2.
Oh, because
And we have a
it's-
transmission line right behind us, but we can't plug into it. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We always appreciate every year
That's
when
fair.
you come to the committee.
Yes. And my name is Jackie Colson. I'm actually not the president. They don't elect me anything, but I am the lobbyist and the secretary for the Vermont Fairs and Field Days Association. I have a couple fairs here today that are just going to talk very quickly about what we do. I did want to let you know, we are one of probably the few groups that are coming in today not asking for any money.
Wow.
So, yet, caveat, no. We do receive $300,000 through the capital grant, so we've visited the institutions committees, and through the through the Agency of Agriculture, we receive $110,000 in stipends, which most of the fairs use for premiums, which not insurance premiums, we've had that question, for the ribbons and prize money for exhibitors that come in. And I do have to say, there's a huge typo on this little thing that I didn't realize until I got it back, and what I'm saying is I want to make sure you all read it and find it, so that's my reason for doing it. And one of the other really important things is people talk about the money and the funding, and when you consider that we're getting $410,000 as an investment from the legislature, these fairs put $9 million back into the economy of the state of Vermont over the entire year. So that's including the fairs and the extra activities that they do. But considering the investment that we're very happy to get, and then the promotion that the fairs do, and the money that goes back in the community, it's a pretty good bang for the buck. So I'm going to invite a couple people up here, and I know our time is short, so I will stand to give them the hook to make sure that we don't go over for you. And they're used to me giving them the hook. Scott, would you like to start out?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Scott Shee. I'm representative to the Bonneville Fair, the part of the state you don't really know about. So, yeah, it really is most important, the capital grant program and the stipend program. It is huge, huge. You'll hear that from my peers as well. Without that money, what the money allows us to do is it allows us to get a lot of our capital improvement stuff off the ground and get it fixed. We had a 5-year plan. The first year, we did nothing but electrical upgrades and repowering, and we spent $80,000 just in that. To consider that some of that is paid for through that capital program, it's just so huge. We're just like most of them, we're nonprofit, we're all volunteers. Without the continued support of the state, I do believe that it would be a tradition that we would have to shut down. There's no way we could continue. Our first fair, which nobody likes to hear, was in 1797. This year is going to be our 228th year of having a fair. Each year it does get tougher, but through your support, it's manageable. And I think that's really the key thing to all this. What we do with the money and what Jackie mentioned about the premiums. In order to get participants, you actually got to be able to give some decent prizes. You give decent prizes and payouts, then you get more participants in, which draws in more people. Just cause and effect. We do a few things at our fairgrounds. We put on 4 concerts throughout the summer. They're free to the community. We do have vendor spaces that we do charge. That's kind of how we offset things. We let the schools do their dance recitals for free. I mean, you have to give something back. We have, the Peru Fair is now defunct. They're no longer going to do their little thing. So they have reached out to us to possibly use our grounds to continue on with that. And I guess last year we had a wrestling event, and this year we're having a country jamboree. And those are all things that, you know, you gotta keep care of your fairgrounds. You might as well try to use it as much as you can to show. And my personal experience has been with being able to use the capital grant money to fix our infrastructure and keep everything looking nice. Public support has gone up. They see it and they go, wow, look what they've done here. This place is fantastic. We operate on 9 acres, 3 of it's parking. It's a 3-day event. Last year, on a Friday night, we were able, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Samples band, but they were a local band that was started in Manchester, went national, global, and we were able to get them to come to and do a show for us Friday night. Things like that wouldn't be possible if we had to use all of our money just to do our capital improvements. So once again, on behalf of Bonneville Fair, thank you so much for your continuous support of the programs that help us.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Any questions?
It's not a really bad spelling error.
Yeah, better knowledge about the spelling.
Yeah,
But is that the budget, the 9 million?
All the fairs that's what they spend all year.
Okay,
Wow.
that's their total budget combined.
So that includes extra events and storage and, you know, that sort of thing. So it's money that's going back out mostly into the community.
Yeah, great.
Our fair, our little fair there in Bonneville, we have one bank and one separate ATM machine, and they have one in the market. We had to put 2 ATM machines on our fairgrounds because we wiped them out in 3 days. They have nothing. Money's gone. So yeah, we turned.
Money was not gone, it was in the community.
Yeah, it's in the community. Right. Too bad none of it's in my.
I know.
Putting it to work, yeah.
Thank you.
The Vermont State Fair.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lana Kontorsky, and thank you for having us and listening to us. I want to say thank you on the outset for the stipend money that we're given and the capital grant money. The stipend money we do use for premiums, and this past year we spent almost $22,000 in premiums alone. So the stipend just helped to defray that. For capital improvements, we have an old infrastructure, 180 years old plus, and we've had to do a lot of repairs electrically, sewer-wise, water lines. We've repaired 1 barn. We still have 2 more to go. We've got to put footings underneath these barns as well as reconstruct. Well, we're going to try to reconstruct them. So that's a couple of the things that we've done. Our biggest challenge right now, going forward, is going to be the 3-acre rule. Can't get away from it. We do have a grant that allows us to get an engineering feasibility study done, which can't be done probably, I think, for about 4 or 5 months because the engineer is backed up. But the only way that we're going to get people to understand what our situation is through that feasibility study. We have railroad tracks on one side, we have 7 on the other side, we got the city on either side of us. Yeah. We have a river going through. We have a maze of, it truly is a maze underneath the grounds of wires and water lines and old water lines and old sewer lines. So the engineer will try to construct something to see what we can come up with. But that's our biggest barrier right now. We do a lot of camping. We have events throughout the year.
Is the camping right there on the side?
We do. We have, yes, and we've had more camping sites put in. So, for example, we have a vintage market comes and sees us twice a year. They start bringing their trailers in and they camp overnight for, 3 or 4 days. That's an income for us. Of course, people come and camp. We've had people just come for the sake of camping. which is not a bad thing, that they take a tour of the city or
Right.
whatever. We did dump about $325,000 back into our community, through events like this, as well as we have, do a personal donation to our local Stuff a Bus and the Christmas Fund. We felt that's very important. And our other challenge this past year was, of course, the heat and humidity. We can't control that. But it did affect us the first 2 days of the fair. And I guess I'll just say again, thank you for what you do for us, and we really do appreciate it, because it does help us get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions?
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you.
No, I'm gonna do clean.
Oh, you are? Okay. Chris Vance, Caledonia County Fair. Again, talking about the stipend and the capital grants, one of the things that may not been mentioned was that every fair gets an equal share of the money. So no fair gets, depending on your size, does not get anything more. So we all get the same. As was mentioned, the stipend is just something that's always been critically important. It amounts to about $12,000 to $15,000 depending upon the year. But that's something that, as was mentioned, last year, Caledonia County Fair gave out $71,000 in premium payments. And again, as was talked about earlier, a lot of it is due to the fact that in order to get people to participate, that's horse pulling, that is your cattle, bunny rabbits, you name it, that all comes out of that premium payment to the community. Capital grants.
Can I interrupt? Like when I've been to fairs, are there hundreds of premiums or dozens? How many would there be in a typical fair? Like all the animals, all the contests, all the plants?
Thousands
per fair.
Yeah. Yeah, when you think about just all, just in Floral Hall alone, there's probably several hundred, I would think.
So even if the premium's $50, it adds up because you have.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's not, we're talking modest amounts, but by the numbers of folks. And that's all I would say is, things, one that's easy for me is horse pulling. Over the years, it's really crept up because to get folks to come,
Right.
And
it's
participate.
It's
not cheap to do it. Same as cattle. But capital grant's really where I want to spend most of my time. Capital grant is near and dear to my heart. I think it's critically important, as was mentioned, the importance of community and county, fairs. The capital grant is the seed money that we use to and more importantly, it forces all of us to be very proactive at thinking about what it is that we're going to do for a project each and every year. It really forces you because you're going through the process. You're having to think about what are we doing this year? What are we going to do next year? We're going to do the year after. And again, I believe that is what leads to the fairs continuing, to be successful and look the way that I believe Vermont fairs look, although I'm a little bit partial, but I would tell you Caledonia County Fair is by far the best looking fair in the state. But again, speaking of the capital grants project, we spent the last couple of years working in our cattle department. We extended Lawrence Arena over the last couple of years. And last year we finished that project, which again, we added 14 feet on each side of Lawrence Arena to move spectators outside for safety and to move small animal and judges booth. But what I would tell you is now Caledonia County Fair has one of the largest show rings in New England, rivaling the Big E, if you will. And that just affords us, as I think I've mentioned to some of you before, but I always like to say it again, we were able to pull the New England Holstein show out of New Hampshire and back into Vermont, and they're committed for another 3 years and had over 200 cattle all the way from as far as Virginia last year. So, and a lot of Canadian teams are expected to come this year, God willing. So, but again, in just reference, in 2002, we completed the entire Lawrence Arena building for $56,000. The 14-foot extensions, in 2025 was $120,000. So over double for just showing you what, how times change. The last thing that I just wanted to mention to this group, things happening, is this spring, we'll start construction on a weather monitoring tower on our fairgrounds in conjunction with the University of Vermont. They reached out to us last year. One of the things that was unbeknownst to us is that, and again, as many of you know, we've suffered a lot of severe weather issues and flooding in our neck of the woods. Because of the mountainous terrain, they were unable to really get a good look at what was happening on our side of the state. So UVM reached out to us and just asked if we would have any interest or ability in allowing them to construct a 30-foot weather monitoring tower. And again, we have gone through that whole process. We've gone through the permitting, and that construction will start in the spring, but we'll be putting up a 30-foot tower that will be monitoring the river levels in that neck of the woods, as well as many other things that should help just with better forecasting. So, and again, we're doing that all free of charge. So again, that's just something that we're doing this year in addition. But all of this is just, again, to say that, you know, what you folks have all done over the years is critically important. It's very beneficial to keep us sustainable. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, great. Thanks for all that.
And I would just like, as a wrap up, we're pretty close on time.
Yeah.
There was a pot of money that hasn't been discussed, and a couple years ago, we had 4 fairs that came under the 3-acre impervious surface rule.
Yeah, we talked about it last year.
Yes, so the update on, so it was Champlain Valley, it was Orleans, it was Rutland, and Addison. So the legislature very generously gave us $2 million to put in a kitty so that these fairs could come up with a solution to their challenges. Champlain Valley, so they each got about $550,000 when it was all said and done. The Agency of Agriculture has been wonderful to work with because it was ARPA funding, so we had to move it out of that to A&R to get it back over there so we could keep the money. So Champlain Valley is shovel ready, and they're going to have their piece completed as soon as they can get their construction going. Addison actually was oversold on a project, and they went back to the engineer and said, you know, we've got a lot of land over there, and we've got a lot of drainage. Can't we do it this way instead of building something huge? And that worked. So they are able to come in underneath the $550,000. Who am I forgetting? Orleans, sorry, it's been a long day. Orleans is working on it, and I think they've got their plan in, so they're going to be able to come in under $550,000. Rutland, they have just the feasibility study, just the first step to decide what they're going to be able to do is coming in at $175,000 out of their $550,000, and the engineer cannot start until hopefully June, May or June. We've had they're all my fairs. Rutland has had DEC down twice for on-site viewing, at which point that's when they discovered there's a wetlands also as part of their issue. And so these guys are really in trouble. They've had estimates anywhere from 2.1 million to 3.6 million to fix this. And that includes putting in underground tanks to move the water around. And they not only have to fix the water, but they have to move it back into the stream. They've got an impaired brook that runs right through the middle of the fairgrounds. And so the challenge that we have found, and we've mentioned this to DEC, they've said, well, you can put in these underground things. Where if you're familiar with Rutland Fair, in front of the grandstand, there's the parking lot. Well, that was one of the areas they thought could happen. We're not sure we can park on top of it. The other area they're looking at is over where the carnival rides are, which we're not sure we can put carnival rides on top of it. And on top of that, given the construction season in Vermont, we would have at least 1, if not 2 years with no fair. And if any, we all went through COVID. We know that the farm shows had trouble coming back. Luckily, all these guys did come back. But having a fair of that magnitude not occur for 2 years would end them. So we're waiting for more figures. We may be back on their behalf. We've talked to institutions and they're very well aware of what's going on. But there is no way that any of the fairs could come up, I mean, we're talking, if you want to have a ticket to go there for $1,000 a piece, it's not feasible for them. And it's not that they're not, we all love clean water, we want to make this work, but that's not going to work very well. So that's my last pitch, and it's been really hard for these guys because they're all volunteers. We had Addison mention about how wonderful it was because they're all done with this challenge, and now they can move forward, and their meetings are wonderful and exciting, and they're happy. And we've got Rutland that is just going through this on and on and on for 2.5 years, and they're troopers, and they're trying their best, and we want it to work, but we may be back for some assistance.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks all of you, yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I need my purses right there.
I know all about them. Not all of them, but most.
You fed me at many fairs.
Yeah.
Did everybody get started?
I don't think Norris,
Bob, we still Bob. Okay, there's one for him.
but they, Franklin got their new site, right?
I'm sorry?
Franklin Fair got their they got their new site.
They have a site, they're leasing it for 3 years, and then they're gonna have an option to purchase. It's 47 acres and it's $2.4 million.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I think.
So that would be another one. Yeah, it's a challenge. Thank you very much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, now we're gonna switch to H5.5.
Ag soil.
Go ahead, Katie. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
5:45, I think we have this address. So there's a Senate amendment?
There is a committee report coming out of Health and Welfare. I can pull it up on my screen.
Do you want to say anything about it, Senator Lyons, before we have Katie run through it?
No, well, it is an important bill because it allows for the state of Vermont to continue with its immunization program in spite of changes that have happened at the federal government. I just will say that, and then Katie can pick up and go through.
And you could focus on the
Yeah.
financial parts.
Yeah.
We don't need
Okay,
to know all.
I'll try to go high level.
Yeah.
Katie McDonough, Office of Legislative Counsel. So Senator Lyons is saying this is a bill that sort of decouples references that Vermont has in statute that links the CDC recommendations with how we, for example, reimburse health insurers for immunizations, or how we authorize pharmacists as to what they can administer. So instead, this creates a path by which the Vermont Commissioner of Health would be able to make recommendations as to recommended immunizations for children and adults. This bill at 23 pages looks intimidating. What's happening here is that there is a sunset after 6 years. So half of the bill is sort of putting statutes back in place as they are now with a few little changes. Financial pieces, there are no appropriations. We do have this section called immunization funding. This is an existing section of law that sets up the immunization program in the Department of Health. It's an existing program. And as you'll see, really this first definition lays out what the bill does. Right now, an immunization under this program is tied to the CDC. And this language instead becomes a recommended immunization, meaning recommended by the commissioner pursuant to language that's set out in another subsection. So that is a major change. A lot of this language is kind of conforming changes to change the word vaccine to recommended immunization, meaning an immunization that's recommended by the commissioner. Here we have some language in subsection C that the department shall determine which recommended immunization shall be purchased under the program. That's not new language, it's just moved from down here. But what is new is that right now, under the program, the health department purchases immunizations from the CDC, and there's this language added or another vendor. So this would authorize the department to purchase immunizations for the next 6 years from another vendor, if doing so is at the lowest possible cost and with consistent with the recommended immunizations put forth by the commissioner.
Yes, Senator.
Can I just ask, what was the thinking on 6 years?
That's a good question, and it's come up. I really think it's a better question for somebody from House Human Services to answer, but you know, there was some discussion that there would have been a change at the federal level and different administration.
Understood, I'm
Yep.
just thinking this would put us in the middle of the next.
Right, and perhaps sometime once a new administration comes in to make changes to return to a recommended schedule more consistent
No,
with what
I
we
think it's
had.
very clever to have it revert to the original wording. I was just curious.
What the magic of 6 years is, yeah, I think it was.
magic.
My question is like, if we're gonna go through the trouble of kind of setting up our own, why not just keep our, why go back?
That was what was in the bill is introduced, and Human Services decided they wanted to have a sunset on it.
I guess if, you know, if we're talking about a CDC that was, you know, as of 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, I would prefer that to our own, you know, just following our own lights.
But they were aligned with other states.
Yeah, but who knows, maybe this change is not gonna revert, depending on who gets elected next time.
So, but the other piece of that is that the federal CDC could change to be more like what Vermont is, and Vermont could change to be different, so it's a balance. Trying to figure it out, it's just like.
One thing that was sort of discussed is that this timeline gives the General Assembly time to be responsive depending on what happens at the federal level. If the, you know, if there's a decision that we don't want to revert back, this gives time to act and repeal the second half of the bill, which would essentially keep this connection with the Commissioner of Health in place. Shall I keep going?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I could even skip ahead to the council, because maybe that's, I was trying to figure out why it got sent to appropriations.
It was sent to appropriations in the House too, and I wasn't quite sure the thinking. There is an immunization funding advisory committee. It's an existing committee. The membership isn't changing, although there's some cleanup in how appointments are made.
Is there zero financial impact?
Essentially, there might be there's another committee that has some tweaks. It's an existing committee.
Per diem change?
Well, the
Most of the
Immunization
people
Advisory Council does expand.
Yes, but most of the folks on it are working in their professional capacity, so I don't know if that would have a per diem effect.
I guess a couple of them may or may not be working on,
And then there's 2 sections on health insurance, not a monetary effect, but essentially what it does is says right now health insurers are reimbursing those immunizations that are recommended by the CDC, and this language says health insurers will reimburse for immunizations that are recommended by the Commissioner of Health. So there's a swap out there and who is doing the recommending.
So we already did it, so they could recommend something, we're requiring the insurance company to cover that, so there could be a cost to that.
No, so right now, the immunizations are covered by the health insurer in alignment with what's recommended by the CDC, and this changes it so health insurers will recommend in alignment with what the Commissioner of Health recommends. So it's just a swap out as to who is making the recommendation for what's covered. There are sections pertaining to the administrative and prescribing authority of pharmacists. Right now, their authority to administer and prescribe immunizations is tied to the CDC. That's this language here. And you'll see that the change is to instead refer back to what the Commissioner of Health is recommending. We have similar language.
AGVSA 1130 is the Commissioner's recommendation?
Yeah. Or that's the definition of recommended immunization, which refers to the Commissioner. Pharmacy techs, we have the same thing happening. And that brings us to the halfway point in the bill. And this is where we start restoring the existing law. I
just change everything back from the first course.
Yeah, but I just want to be clear that it doesn't go back exactly the way it is now, because there were some changes that are being made in the first half of the bill that the committee has decided they liked and they wanted to keep, like for the funding council. I said there was no change in membership, but there's change in how the appointments are made. And the committees decided they liked that and they wanted to retain that moving forward. Same thing with the other advisory council. There are some changes made to the membership of that council, and the committees decided that they liked those changes and those should exist moving forward, even if the rest of the statute reverts back. So there are changes like that. The pharmacy tech section, there was no need to revert it back. OPR said they liked the changes and they would like them moving forward, and there wasn't a direct reference to the CDC in it. So that has been, retained moving forward. So I'll move past this quickly because this is mostly going back to existing law.
Yeah, I thought there was more about the committee per diems, but I don't even see that. So yeah, I guess you're saying like because of the potential for a change in health insurance, there'd be a cost.
Maybe because there is a. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'll ask the member just to find out, or maybe it was.
But this is the same process that the House went through. I went to House Appropriations also. We had the same conversation.
Well, at least the Senate Secretary and the House Clerk are consistent.
Yeah. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the bill. We have a section repealing a new section that had been added that created a framework for how the commissioner was going to make recommendations under this section, and that's being repealed July 1, 31st, and then we have effective dates.
Okay. Any questions about H545? Yeah.
My only question is, would you prefer to let this lie until after you ask the Senate Secretary, or would you?
No, I would entertain a motion to pass a favorable law.
So.
Okay, so moved. Any further discussion? Now I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
All right, let me get ready for this.
H545, draft 2.1.
Yeah, we're doing it right now.
Whoops, under the gun, a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure.
In fact, could we ask the Senate Secretary's office a question?
Sure.
Why was H545 sent here?
I can't tell you off my memory, but I can go check upstairs because I probably flagged it in the.
Maybe 18th?
Just immunization.
18th.
Today
Yeah,
is
if you could go
the
check real quick.
18th.
Okay, Senator Baru.
Yes.
Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Norris. Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Westman. Senator Perchlik.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to hold it, or?
They're both in the building.
I can find them. If
Norris just with his football team, and I don't know what happened to Westman.
Norris isn't coming back.
I don't know.
Ever.
Did you talk to him?
He made it pretty clear. He was done.
He was done. Okay, well, if you see the question,
I'll find him.
Grab him, but
Okay.
if Norris is left, we'll have that.
Who, reporter? Senator Lyons, of course.
Virginia Lyons.
No, don't you like that?
Okay.
Good.
Jenny, that Bloomer still to this day calls you Jenny.
Jenny.